Hi, my name is Phil Anderson. I'm running for United States Senate to represent Wisconsin. Our federal legislature is a mess. I read two different articles today. Actually, one watched a video and another was an article. The article was about Congressman Thomas Massie, who I think does an excellent job in Congress. What he has to do to try and provide some more accountability in the House of Representatives is he runs from his office to the House floor if there's going to be a voice vote. Now, what a voice vote is when the Speaker of the House just basically says all in favor aye, all opposed no, and a lot of legislation passes that way without congressmen and women having to go actually on the record with how they voted. It just got passed. Nobody knows who voted yay, nobody knows who voted nay, just that the Speaker of the House, in his ultimate wisdom, has decided that it passed based on the voice vote. That's a severe lack of accountability on behalf of Congress. They pass a ton of laws that way, even in some cases where there's not anywhere near a quorum. And there's supposed to be a quorum before they take a vote. There's supposed to be a majority of the people, the House of Representatives there in order to actually vote on stuff. But that doesn't always happen either. There's been many documented cases where bills get voted on with just a handful of representatives in the House. And that's just a travesty. Basically, it's the Speaker of the House just passing legislation as he sees fit by timing it according to how many representatives and from which party are present, which is just ridiculous. It's not representative government. The other thing that I watched today was Senator Rand Paul stand up and speak to the United States Senate about a bill that he had only been given about 2 hours notice to read. 180-page bill that involves some changes in criminal law and some other things. 2 hours before voting and 180 pages. Now, anybody who has the idea that representative government is actually happening in Washington should be disavowed of that notion based on not only these two things, but the fact that these sort of things happen every day. Now, as your senator, I will support the Read the Bills Act, which would mean that every bill needs to be read by every person that's voting on it, on paper or out loud, and also that bills be posted for at least 72 hours before they're voted on so that the public, you and me, get a chance to look at bills that we're interested in and then actually let our representatives know how we feel about them so they can vote accordingly or advise us otherwise, whatever. That seems only reasonable. The other legislation that I support is the one bill at a time. A lot of bills get lumped together, such as the omnibus bill right before Christmas, which had a bunch of stuff lumped into it, which is why it had to be called the omnibus bill, because it had so much junk in it. And there was no accountability there either, because while some people can say, I voted for this, they also voted for that. They voted for things that their constituents may have approved of, while at the same time voting for things that they didn't. And because these issues weren't separated out into individual bills, then a lot of junk happens that basically Congress people get paid for passing these things in terms of campaign contributions and cushy jobs after they're out of office, but in fact are not what their constituents want them to vote for, and not why they were elected in the first place. And Ron Johnson is the absolute champion of that. He claims that he voted for things that are in the omnibus bill, other things he disavows when he voted yes for the whole thing. So he and every member of Congress should be behind the Read the Bills Act and the One Bill at a Time Act, but of course they're not, otherwise they'd be passed by now. As your senator, I'll be in favor of both those measures, and I will certainly do as Congressman Massie does and attempt to be there every time there's a vote. I wouldn't be in the House of Representatives, but in the Senate, anytime that sort of thing happens, I'll be there. I'll stand up, I'll filibuster, I'll do whatever I need to do to make sure that the bills are read and understood by the public to a certain extent, to whatever extent necessary, that the public can be heard through the representatives in the House and the Senate, and not just governed, in the worst sense of that word, by people whose allegiance is not to their constituents, but to their parties and to their campaign contributors. That's what I stand for, a big change in Washington and how they do business. Thanks, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow.